Alright, hey guys. So this is going to be our 1-point perspective tutorial. And so what I want you to start out with is for our guided notes, we're going to take a 2-3 inch section on our side, and we're just going to make a line, and that's where we're going to put our vocab for today with our definitions. So our first definition, or vocab word, is going to be our horizon line. So take a minute to think about what you think horizon line means. Where have you heard the word horizon before? What comes to mind when you think of horizon? And then what do you think horizon line in a painting or drawing might be? Alright, so our horizon line is the physical boundary between land and sky or our eye level. So that is our textbook definition. I then want you to put in just a few words your own definition. So use your own words for that. So let's go ahead and put in our horizon line just a few inches from the top, parallel to the top of our paper. We're just going to put it in right here. And then go ahead and label it over off to our side, horizon line. Our next vocab word is going to be our vanishing point. So vanishing, what does that mean? And then point. So think about where in a drawing, like if you're standing on the street and you're staring down, looking at it, what do you think might be your vanishing point? So think about that for a minute. Alright, so our textbook definition is the imaginary or real point where all receding lines converge. Alright, so let's break down some of these bigger words. Receding, where have we heard of receding before? How about a receding hairline? That's one we hear about a lot. When people have a receding hairline, it means that their forehead's getting bigger and bigger as their hairline pushes back on their head. So receding is to go back in space. And then converge. What do we think converge might mean? We converge every day at school to learn. We converge in our classroom to learn art. So it's to come together, right? So our vanishing point, we can just put right in the middle of our horizon line. And it's just the point that all of our lines that go back in space come together at. So we can go ahead and label that as well. So vanishing point. So now let's think of what vocab word we might need to define for the lines we're going to draw next, which are going to be converging lines. So we just figured out what converge means with our receding lines. So take a second to kind of think about what you think converging lines might be. Alright, so our converging lines are those lines that are going back into space. They're all going to start at a different location and come together at a single point, which is going to be our vanishing point. So we're going to start by making a street with sidewalks. So what we can do is start by making a perpendicular line So for those of you in math, perpendicular means straight up and down. And I'm just going to draw it in really lightly. So it's at a 90-degree angle to our horizon line. And I'm going to pick a point that is 2 inches to either side of my center point. And then I'm going to connect my vanishing point and that 2 inches away point. And these are the lines that I'm going to make. So these are my first 2 converging lines. All right, so now we've got our road. So now I'm going to pick a point that is 1 inch away from each of these. So I'm just using my ruler to measure that. And now I can use my vanishing point again to draw in my next converging line. So there we go. So now we have our converging lines. I'm going to come in and lightly erase out this center line. We'll use it again in a few minutes. So now I want to make the crosses in our sidewalk, right? Those cracks that we walk over. And so for that, what I'm going to do is just take my ruler and I'm going to drag it down so that I can make parallel lines, right? Or lines that are even with the horizon line. And I'm going to start making these lines. And when you think about staring down a street, things tend to look smaller the farther in the distance they are. They also look like they're closer together. So while we're making these lines, they're going to get farther apart from each other the closer that they get to us, or the farther away they get from the horizon line. And I know sidewalks are usually more square or small rectangles, but for this we're just going to make them nice and long. Alright, so now we've got that in. Next we want to put the dashes in our road. So we're going to go back over that center point, and we're going to put a dashed line, so passing zone. And those dashes are going to be short and together, and then as they get closer to us, they're going to get longer and farther apart. Just like that. And that gives that illusion of depth into our drawing. So next, we're going to take 3 lines on the side of our road that are perpendicular to the horizon line. And it doesn't totally matter how far apart they are, or how far down or how tall they go. It just matters that they cross your horizon line. So I've got line 1, line 2, and line 3. And now what I'm going to do is take one of my parallel lines and connect towards the bottom, line 2 and 3, and then do the same thing at the top, just making sure that those lines are parallel. Now you can see that I have extra at the top and bottom, so I'm just going to erase out that extra that I don't need, and that's going to become the front of my building. And I can come in and erase out my horizon line. And I'm actually going to erase out my horizon line over here, because this is going to become the side of the building. But right now in 1 point perspective, we don't know where on line 1 our side lines are going to cross. So just like for our road, we're going to connect a ruler up to our vanishing point and then down in the corner of line 2. And I'm just going to make some lightly dashed lines to show that these are just my converging lines, and then do the same thing to the top of line 2 with our vanishing point. So it's almost like we're building a plan. So now I know that it's this point right here and this point right here that are going to connect. So I can come in and now draw those lines in. And now I have the side of my building. I can come in and erase out these lines that I don't need above those points. Now, in a finished drawing, you would erase the converging lines, but for our practice drawing, we're gonna leave it in. So now we're gonna add some stories to our building. So I'm gonna go ahead and put in 2 dots that kind of evenly divide my building into 3. And I'm gonna take my parallel line and just cut right across for the front of my building. And now you can see that I've divided those into 3 pretty even sections. To get the lines that go back into space, right, they converge. So I'm going to connect one end of my ruler to the vanishing point and the other right to that line, or to that dot. Now I can go back over and go ahead and darken up that line, and that becomes a story. All right, I can do the same thing here. And now I've got that broken down. So next, let's put in a few windows. For the front of our building, all of our lines are going to be parallel and perpendicular to our horizon line. So all I need to do is come around, and I'm just going to put in 3 giant windows. They're living the life of luxury in this pretend building. So I drew in all my perpendicular lines. Now I can come back in and do my parallel lines, and I'm just going to make a little note on the side as to where that ends, so that my side windows can line up with it. So just like we did those dots, I'm making a little reference dash to make sure my windows line up on both sides. All right, and then I'm gonna put some people in our windows. Give this guy a beard and a hat, and we'll call him Abraham Lincoln. Right, so you can do whatever you want in these windows. So next, I've made these little marks. So what I can do is do those converging lines to go in and lightly plan, right, where the bottom and tops of my windows are going to be. Just lightly draw that in. And then I'm going to go over the spots where I want my windows. We also need a door on the bottom floor, so we'll put that in so that our party people and Abraham Lincoln can escape should there be a fire. Always want to match fire and safety codes. Okay, so I've got those lines in for the bottom of my windows. Now I can come in and put in my perpendicular lines. Not parallel. So there's one side of my window, and then I can come over here, and it's going to be even closer to this edge of the wall than over here, because remember, as things go back into space, they appear to be closer together. All right, so now I'm going to put in my bottom, front windows, and I want to put a door in the middle. So I'm going to find where about the middle is going to be and go ahead and put in my door, and that's going to go all the way up to the top of the windows and all the way down to the bottom of my shape, so we don't have to worry about that converging line. And then my windows can go in next to the doors. Now I can come in and darken the tops and bottoms. You could also use your ruler to do this to get a nice crisp line. And then I can come in and erase out those converging bits that we don't need. A little doorknob. Okay, so there I kind of have a generic building, right? You can come in and put some glare on your window if you wanted, hang some drapes, whatever you want to do. There we go. So the next thing we want to do is put in some foliage. It's a big word. Where have we heard the term foliage before? Probably when we're talking about gardening. So foliage is just like our plants, trees, stuff like that. So we're going to put 2 trees in to start out. We're going to put one in the back and one in the front. Go ahead and take a guess which one is going to be our small tree and which one is going to be our big tree. So our small tree is going to come in the background because things appear smaller the farther away they are, and they're going to be less detailed. If we come up and we put one up here in the front, we're going to cover up this guy who's chilling in our window. We're going to come in, put our outline for the tree. I'm going to erase that. Maybe I'll put him up in this window. There we go. And come in, and the closer we are, the more detailed it's going to be because we can see more. So I'll put in my detailed tree here. Maybe put an owl inside our tree. Alright, so there we go. Generic tree. We're not too worried about trying to make it real fancy. We're just putting in some ideas. So we have a bigger tree in the front, smaller tree in the back. So, which part of our drawing is our tiny tree in? You probably heard this word quite a bit. The background, right? And then if we look up here, where's this tree at? Again, you probably heard this word quite a bit in class already. The foreground. And then our building sits between those, and it has a pretty obvious name. So see if you can guess it. The middle ground. So those are our 3 major parts of drawings when we're setting things up like this. Alright, so the last thing I want to do before you get to do some stuff by yourself is put in some lamp posts. And for that, I need to get 2 converging lines. One of them is going to be right next to my sidewalk, because that's, where lamp posts typically go. So I'm going to just come in and do a lightly dashed line. There we go. And then I want the lamppost to be a little bit higher than the 2nd story of my building. So I'll come in and put that line. So I have this line right here, and I have this line right here to look at for my lampposts. And then I'm going to use my perpendicular line to come in and go to the top of that line to the bottom of this line. And I'm just going to draw in my line, and I'm going to make it 2 pencil widths thick. And now I have my lamppost in. Kind of just hang a little light fixture from here. And there we go, our first lamppost. Our second one, I'm going to put right kind of by our tree. So again, get that perpendicular line, and we're going to push it from the bottom of that converging line all the way up to that line we drew at our half story. And then this line, do we think it's going to be thicker or thinner than the last pole we drew? I feel like a episode of Dora the Explorer. That's right, we're going to make it thicker because it's closer to us, so it's going to appear bigger. Color that in. Really quickly. There we go. And then I'll put out the spot that holds it. Make it a bigger semicircle. And there's my other lamppost. So now we've got all of this set up. So let's go ahead and define 1-point perspective. Why do we think we call this 1-point perspective? Right? Probably has something to do with the 1 point we're drawing to. Right? We're looking at 1 viewpoint going straight. Everything's coming to our 1 vanishing point. So our textbook definition is that it is the drawing method that shows how things appear to get smaller as they get farther away in space, converging to a single vanishing point. All right? And then you can write your little definition down here. So we should have everything pretty much labeled in our drawing so that we have both a visual representation and we have our textbook definition, and then we have your easier to remember definition for all of our vocab words. And then what I want you to do for your homework or exit ticket, and you should be able to finish this pretty quickly, is to add in 5 more lampposts, one more building, and then more trees, bushes, or other details. All right, so there you go, 1 point perspective.